Hey guys, Weiss here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to another video. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps us out a lot. So today, I've been excited about this video because I'm talking about one of my favorite genres of all time, the maze game. And so I'm going to be counting down my 10 favorite maze games of all time. Now to be more precise, my 10 favorite dot-gobbling maze games that are retro. So a game like Mr. Do, where you dig tunnels instead of gobble dots, not considering that one. Like Dig Dug and those kind of games, I'm not considering that for this particular video. And I'm going full retro, so I'm not including something like Pac-Man Championship Edition. I love Mr. Do and Pac-Man Championship Edition, phenomenal games, but I'm just going retro dot-gobbling games. So, or just where you make dots disappear on the screen. Okay, so let's get to it. My 10 favorite maze games of the dot-gobbling retro variety. I suppose this is a subgenre within the maze category. So let's get to it. Dodge 'em. Dodge 'em for the Atari 2600. Maybe a surprise choice. Doesn't look like much. It's just a simple top-down driving game where you're driving over dots. It's a sort of an unauthorized port of the old arcade game Head On. But it is very challenging and it's super fun for just you can just play for a few minutes in here and there if you want to. If I've got 15 minutes before I'm getting ready to go somewhere and I want to kill some time or just have some fun, I put on Dodge 'em. It's a blast and it's fast. It gets faster and you are driving around this square rectangular maze and another car is coming. The crash car. You have to dodge as you drive around. Another car will be coming in your direction. And as you go, another car, you'll be trying to dodge a couple of different cars, and a second player can play the crash car, which is a lot of fun. So it's sort of like a game of chicken, I guess you could say, more or less. But it's just a blast, and it's a lot of fun. It's simple, it's fun, it's pick up and play, and it is addicting. You keep trying to play again and again to up your high score. Number 10, Dodge 'em. Number 9. Now, I love this game, and I almost pushed it higher up on the list. It is Trog for the NES. Now, I had never played the arcade version back in the day, and I sort of discovered the NES version as a hidden gem later on when I was writing one of my early NES books, the Classic Home Video Games NES book, the red one as a lot of people call it. But Trog is a fantastic game. It's a great port, and you guide a dinosaur around a series of 50 different mazes. You collect eggs. There's your dot gobbling for you. You avoid cavemen and fire and other obstacles. And you eat fish to turn into a T-Rex. And when you become a T-Rex, it's super awesome gobbling enemies. And you can punch enemies in this game as well. And as you play it, you'll gain the ability to, you breathe fireballs and jump. And it's just awesome. It's a terrific maze game, and the NES doesn't have many maze games. There's Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Pac-Mania, a few others, but Trog really sticks out. It's kind of a hidden gem in the NES library. I love this game, Trog, at number 9. Number 8 is another relative obscurity, or actually this one, I guess you could just say it is obscure because it's for the obscure Arcadia 2001. That is Cat Tracks, and note the oversized cartridge compared to something like Dodge 'em. Some Arcadia 2001 cartridges are regular size, but there's some taller ones as well. Cat Tracks, it's just a great maze game. Now, it's not particularly original. You control a cat being chased by 3 dogs. You eat a fish to become a dog catcher's truck to turn the tables on the enemies. There are gates to open and close. You can enter warps. Nothing really particularly original, but it's just a lot of fun. Good animation, good controls. And I just come back to it again and again, and it does have a chapter in my 100 greatest console video games book, 77 to 87, and it's worthy. It's a great game, and I highly recommend it if you've never played it for the Arcadia 2001. And just to give you a little history behind it, because it's not a really well-known game, from the Moby Games website, Cat Tracks began life as a straight Pac-Man clone called Crazy Gobbler for the Emerson Arcadia 2001 system. Before its American release, the Pac-Man and Ghost sprites were changed into cats and dogs to avoid the kind of legal problems which were brought by official home licensee Atari upon Philips Magnavox for its Casey Munchkin game. The original Gobbler version was published in Europe alongside the Cats and Dogs version. The Atari 2600 version never saw a full release, instead only showing up in a 128-in-1 cartridge under the title Cat and Mouse, and was in 2003 reissued on its own by Atari Age, one of those great homebrew titles. Well, there you go, Cat Tracks weighing in at number 8. So number 7 is the arcade version of Miss Pac-Man. Miss Pac-Man, an obvious favorite, coming in at number 7. A lot of people, it's probably their favorite maze game of all time. You know, whether you're gobbling dots or digging tunnels, any kind of maze game. But I have Miss Pac-Man at number 7. It's faster than Pac-Man. It's more unpredictable in Pac-Man. It's harder to figure out, you know, what mazes, you know, what patterns you can use to beat harder levels, because of the ghost AI is smarter. It has 4 mazes instead of just 1 like Pac-Man, and I just love it. And I play it typically on Namco Museum Volume 3 for the PS1. Perfect port, obviously. Just fantastic version of Miss Pac-Man. I play it quite a bit, and I definitely like it. You know, when I'm at the arcade, I like it when they have it on the fast mode. And some purists like a slow, you know, the slowed down version, just the regular version, you might say. And that's the one I remember when I first started playing Miss Pac-Man back in the day. But then later, it seems like most arcade operators would put it on the fast mode, and that's when you find it today. You do still find Miss Pac-Man, you know, at bars and restaurants, and of course retro arcades. You typically see it on the fast mode because that's what a lot of people like. And I do have a few friends, actually 2 or 3 friends that have Miss Pac-Man arcade cabs in their homes, and that's really awesome. But I typically do play it on the PS1. It's just great. Great game, Miss Pac-Man, weighing in at number 7. It's always better to play the arcade version because you have the joystick control, but it is fun on the PS1. Number 6, Mousetrap for the ColecoVision. Now, as a lot of you longtime viewers of my channel know, if you've watched the Tales from a Retro Gamer episodes, like my ColecoVision Christmas, I did get Mousetrap for the ColecoVision for Christmas of 1982. That was under the tree, and it was awesome, super exciting. And I actually asked for that particular game because I remember playing the arcade version back at the Land of Oz arcade at the Northeast Mall near where I grew up. And Mousetrap's just an excellent game. You do open and close doors, like in Lock and Chase, you know, sort of, kind of that vibe, and where you're, you know, blocking enemies and things, and, you know, as you go around the maze, gobbling dots, you do use those doors. And so it's, a lot of people compare it to Lock and Chase, but I just think it's a much better game. Sorry, Intellivision fans, I do like Lock and Chase, but spoiler, it didn't make the top 10 list. It might make my top 20 list, particularly the Game Boy version, which is really cool. But regardless, Mousetrap at number 6, great game that I still play. And I love how the ColecoVision, you know, the keypad control has the little overlay, and it, you know, has color-coded overlay so you can open the color-coded doors. Really cool feature on the ColecoVision to make it arcade-like. KC Munchkin weighs in at number 5. This was the game that Atari took Magnavox to court over, and KC Munchkin was actually removed from store shelves because of this. Luckily, it was in production and on store shelves long enough to where it's a pretty easy game to find. It's not a rarity or anything. It's pretty common, but it is a fantastic game for the Odyssey 2. And a lot of people compare it to the 2600 version of Pac-Man because the graphics are so much better. It's so slick and it plays better, has better controls. It's just a great game, and it has just great pickup and play value. And anytime I play this, I want to play again and again and again and again and again. I just absolutely love it, and you just can't go wrong. You are going around, you know, a series of different mazes, gobbling dots and avoiding these creatures that roam the maze. So it is very Pac-Man-like, but I like it better than, you know, even like the arcade version of Pac-Man. Spoiler, the actual Pac-Man that's on my shirt did not make this list, as you might have surmised when I was describing Miss Pac-Man. So there you go, the greatness of KC Munchkin. So after the lawsuit, coincidentally enough, next on my list, and I did put these in order of my favorites, I didn't put these together just because they go together, is Casey's Crazy Chase. I like this even better than KC Munchkin. It's similar. You're going around a maze, gobbling, and you're gobbling a segmented caterpillar this time. So you're gobbling the segments instead of, you know, just dots like in Casey Munchkin, so it is different enough to appease the Atari lawyers, and it is voice enhanced. That's a lot of fun. I love this game. And, you know, Casey Munchkin was voice enhanced too, and that adds to the fun if you have the Odyssey 2 voice module. Love the Odyssey 2, underrated console, and I love these maze games for them. They're just slick, and the graphics are bright and sharp, no flickering, and they just play really well. And they don't take a ton of time to play, so they're great. Also, if you, you know, you don't have a ton of time and you just want to pick up and play type of games, 2 excellent maze game for the underrated Odyssey 2. Love it. So, we're getting down to it. Number 3, Super Pac-Man, the arcade version, which I play, again, on a Namco Museum Collection, this time Volume 2. You got Super Pac-Man, you can barely read the title there, and it is pictured on the back. Just a great game. I love Super Pac-Man. You are Pac-Man, and you do go around a maze eating items. In this case, fruit and prizes. You eat keys to unlock doors, which is different, obviously, than Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man. You eat power pellets. Now, that can let you turn the tables on the enemies, but there are also top power pellets that make you huge, you know, like a giant Pac-Man, and it makes you speed up, and it's super fun to whiz through the maze faster and bigger, and you can actually eat through doors. Now, those keys you pick up to open doors, when you're giant, you can eat through those doors, and it's fast. It's just super, super fun. As the name may indicate, Super Pac-Man. I love it at number 3. Now, number 2 is kind of a strange choice because I'm not even sure I qualify. Okay, let me put it, okay. It is Baby Pac-Man for the arcade. It is part video game and part pinball. But I don't think the video game section, the Pac-Man part, is particularly great. I think it's good, but not great. It's difficult, and maybe it's not as fun as Miss Pac-Man. And the pinball section, it's not a great pinball game. It's a good pinball game, but it's not nearly as good as a lot of the pinball games, you know, my favorite pinball games. It's not, if I just had to rate pinball games, I would not put the Baby Pac-Man pinball version on the list. But for some reason, the combination of the two, going back and forth between the maze action and the pinball action, for some reason, that just makes it a ton of fun to play for me. And anytime I see Baby Pac-Man in the arcades, like a retro arcade or at a video game convention, I play it over and over and over again to try to best my high score, and just because it's a ton of fun. I absolutely love me some Baby Pac-Man, and it is so awesome that it was finally ported to a home console, a very unlikely port since it does have pinball action. And they did a beautiful job. Robert Crescenzo, 2019. I got this at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo in 2019 for the 7800. Absolutely a no-brainer for me, and it is an excellent port. I did play it first before I bought it because I wanted to make sure it was as good as I had hoped, and I was actually surprised by how good it is. The pinball action really mimics the arcade well, and as does the maze action. Just a great homebrew. I love it. So Baby Pac-Man arcade version comes in at number 2, and I love playing the 7800 version as well. So number 1 is often called a mere Pac-Man clone. If there's people that maybe don't like it so much or underrate it or haven't spent a lot of time with it, they will just blow off Ladybug as a Pac-Man clone. And yes, it does borrow from Pac-Man, like so many maze games. You do go around a maze gobbling dots, or in this case, you know, little flowers or whatever they are. And you can see it's based on an arcade classic. I love the ColecoVision version because that's the one I grew up playing. Your objective is to eat all the dots, hearts, and letters in the maze. The letters spell out extra for extra life. And if you spell out special, you get a vegetable harvest where you go around gobbling vegetables, sans enemies. Now, in the arcade version, when you spelled out special, a wedding scene played out, which was really crazy, which blew my mind when I found out that. Because, you know, as a kid, I don't recall seeing Ladybug in the arcades. I played it later. And obviously, but as a kid playing ColecoVision Ladybug, I knew it was a great port because I had seen pictures of the arcade version, but I didn't know about that wedding scene. I think that's just really interesting. Plus, in the arcade version, when you get special, No vegetable harvest, but you do get the wedding scene and an extra game, which is really nice. Nice touch by Universal. I believe they did that with some other games as well. You could, I think in Mr. Dude, didn't you? If you got a diamond, you got a bunch of points. I believe that got you an extra game as well. That's one of my favorite games of all time, or actually my favorite game. I should remember that off the top of my head, but I remember if you get the diamond, you get a ton of points. And I believe in the arcade version, you got an extra life as well. I usually play, an extra game. I usually play the Super Nintendo or ColecoVision version, which I couldn't pull that up right off the top of my head. Anyway, I'm getting way off field here. Ladybug is excellent. You're dodging ghosts. If you eat the vegetable in the middle, it'll freeze the ghosts. Phenomenal. I love Ladybug, and I would play it. I remember I got such a high score on it that I submitted it to Electronic Games Magazine, a Polaroid of my screenshot, of the score. But by the time of the next issue, someone else had beaten my score, trounced it actually. But I love Ladybug. You do open doors in this game. You rotate them, and that's sort of a door mechanic like Lock and Chase or Mousetrap, but I like Ladybug even better. It's just a great game with tons of cool strategies. It's got, bonus multipliers for the little hearts you gobble to gobble the letters, and sort of, something inspired by pinball. So there's a lot of strategy, and one strategy is to sort of clear out the middle of the maze and then work on the outsides. It's a great game with tons of strategy. Love me some Ladybug, my favorite retro dot gobbling game of all time. Let me know in the comments, what is your favorite maze game? Now you can pick maze game, any kind of maze game, but I hope you'll focus in on the dot gobbling type because that's what I've done here. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking this video. It really helps us out a lot. And thank you to James Pledger, who has stepped in to edit these videos, to put in photos and whatnot, who stepped in for my son Ryan, who is moving out of the house and is no longer going to be editing my videos. So long, Ryan. We're going to miss you, bud, living with us. But I'm sure we'll visit you a lot because you're not going to be too far away. And thank you, James. And James Pledger in general has done a ton of work for my channel with art and my Kickstarter video and a ton of other stuff. James Pledger, Pledger Designs, great guy, good friend, excellent dude. Thank you so much for all your hard work. And thank you guys for watching. I will talk to you later.